Hey guys and girls, welcome to the OBS and Birchy podcast. I'm your host Nathan Birch. It's the show unraveling the truth to the facade of 21st century. We're now ex the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. And today we are, right? Today we are. I've got a special guest here today, Tony. Thanks a lot for coming on and being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Today's a celebratory podcast of today because it's our 200th episode, and I'm so humbled to have you on board because I think a lot of people know you, a lot of people that follow me, and being 200 episodes comes out every week. 4 years ago we started it. In the intro I say we're waking up from the matrix and putting people in the motherfucking reality, and I started this business 16 years ago as an investment firm, as a property investor, doing what I do, helping people retire. And I saw, I used to go on the news and be in the media a lot, and I saw things that were questionable, and I'd be like, yeah, that's cool, Nathan. They'd get me on a show, and they go, oh, we've got to stop talking. There's a teleprompter coming up, and then it's not good for the advertisers, right? And I'm like, shit, this is really good content, but it's not good for the advertiser. Who wrote that script there, right? And I started speaking out about a few things, and I realised there was like faceless entities that were like slapping me around, and I realised that when it came to 2020, certain things were happening, and I saw all the signs that, you know, around what I'm an expert in, that were, you know, just coming out. I'm like, I don't know about health, I don't know about geopolitical stuff, I don't know about what's happening in different countries around the world. But I questioned it, and I'm like, hang on a second, I can see all the signs, the symbols, and everything's out there, and we're all being programmed, all being lied. And Corona happened, and that's where I actually started following you in the AFL Solicitors page. So, and I think a lot of people from the community know you, recognise you. I've said that I'm doing the podcast today, and they're like, oh, you know, you say hi. So I'm really excited to jump in because you have, I believe you've copped a bit of heat over the years that have followed with you being outspoken, questioning the matrix and the system that we're in, and I'm really excited to interview you and have a discussion today. So
I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me. I love the studio. You touched on some really good points there, and perhaps if I could just sort of draw on one or two of those. One thing that I appreciated, what I really think you said, that, and one thing that I appreciate is when someone says to me that I was noticing things and I started questioning it. Yeah. And to me, what we've seen over the last couple of years has been this reluctance in people wanting to question. And was it fear, or was it compliance or over-compliance? And what was the purpose of that? But the thing that appeals to me with respect to what you're saying is the courage behind it. And that courage, to me, you waking up in the morning and saying to yourself, there's something not right, and I need to question it. Well, as citizens of an open participatory democracy, you have that right. I actually think it's a legal obligation that you should encourage others to do so. Unfortunately, it was frowned upon, and COVID really highlighted that. And if you can take it back to the days of Socrates, and I won't linger on that, but words to the effect, whether I get the quote absolutely correct, but anyone who doesn't engage within politics is a fool. Okay? The purpose of the undermining structures that we faced over the last couple of years is one that made people feel guilty. They felt remorse. They said, well, I better not question it. Well, no, you should question it, and you should question it more, and get off your backsides and get up there and do something, because at the end of the day, if you don't, no one will. And that is the purpose upon which we see courage in this open participatory democracy. So I think it's an obligation. I think it's an obligation on every parent. I think it's an obligation on every child to ask the question. We have a system that suppresses that. And you were talking about the hidden hand that slaps you. Well, that is a controlled information system. And I wrote about things back in 2014 in the International Handbook of Whistleblower Research. If you think I was called a cooker from 2020, imagine what I was copying from 2014 to 2020. And I was reporting on legal cases, literal legal cases where pharmaceutical companies have been found guilty in courts, and I was being censored. So when I hear people like yourself and I hear parents defending their kids, we have a system that protects. How does it protect? Well, I wrote an article in The Spectator last year, I believe, and it was called "Truth is Knowledge Held Back by Power." The power holds back the truth and lets it slide out. And so when I hear what you say, and I know that more and more people are rising up, and that to me gives me goosebumps, because I'm saying this is what we need in our society. We need courage. People ask me how are you today, and I'm like, it's a great time to be alive, right? Because I'm excited to see the world we live in from the eyes that I see. I get embarrassed by thinking about the Nathan from 10, 15 years ago that would have been blindsided by the world that we live in. And we go to a 12-year indoctrination camp. You get all your questioning stripped from you. You fit into a system. Put your hand up. Can I please go to the toilet, sir, miss, right, whatever. And then it's there to guide us, to not step out of line, to be obedient, to be a good tax slave. I said in 2017, we're going to go for hyperinflation. We're going to see things happen with the monetary policy around the world. And I was called a cooker at that point. And then people came back and they're like, shit, Birchy, tell me how are we going to, what can we do? How can we protect ourselves? And it's interesting. And I don't think critical thinking is something that has been removed from us as humans, from our upbringing. And we should be questioning everything. I always say, if it's financial advice, question everything. Don't trust anything. Make sure that you've got confidence on that. Absolutely.
When people want to go and medicate themselves, you want to go get medicine? Go get medicine. You don't want to go get medicine? Don't get medicine. But don't put your shit on me and force me to take things that and participate.
Nothing should be forced.
Exactly.
It's all coerced.
Yeah, it's all coerced. Yeah.
Nothing.
But everyone chose to get it. Everyone chose to get it. That's what they say now, right? Or you weren't locked in your house. You weren't suppressed from being able to go and earn money. You weren't. Very, very interesting. And
you got some really good points there. And one that I want to pick up on there, which is that aspect of choice. But not only was that the case, but you also had the issues with respect to how you went about what you did. And what you actually indicated there was something that you're not a cooker, and we weren't cookers. We weren't. I'll tell you what we were. We were early. We weren't wrong. We were early. And the truth is knowledge held back by power is demonstrative of the fact that you were so switched on and you were asking the right questions. And not only were you asking the right questions, but you were taking it in a direction that was absolutely plausible, absolutely logical, and not only in that context, that it was coherent. But they didn't want you to know that, and they didn't want you putting it out there, hence the slapdowns.
Exactly.
And they're saying, well, if we enlighten the people too much, they're going to see just how stupid we really are and how much we're really playing them, because, let's face it, they've been duping. Okay? They have misled the population. They have misled and they have deceived. And a really good example on the monetary aspect of things is, and if we look at how Australia has been progressing, my view was an equal, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We seem to put all our eggs in a tourism type environment. Well, that's not it. We've lost manufacturing. We sell our resources dirt cheap, buy it back at 10 times or 15 times the price. We have superannuation issues. We have small business being strangled. I'm a small businessman. When they come out and they say, let's tax the rich, you know what it's telling me? I'm going to have to sack someone. That's what it's telling me. And what does that do? Well, it affects small business. Okay? If we look at the medical side of things, well, again, we're driving things down this road that is unsustainable. It is simply unsustainable. And the monetary policy links into the social policy, and they all circulate.
It's a trap.
It is a trap.
If we look at Latin words, and I was going to do some videos on this, so maybe we can get the editor to cut this out and put in some reels, right? But if you go and look at some words out there, right, and turn them back from Latin, like mortgage is death pledge or death contract, right? The words that we use, they're in plain sight, but we're just like, oh, it's okay, right? And I'm a big fan of the system. I see the system. I've used the economic system to my benefit. It's like they've created a table for us all to go and play at. Most people are asleep at the table. They're not looking for these things. But yeah, it's a very interesting world when you unplug yourself from the matrix and you're like, I don't, you can see it you can't go back. You just can't plug yourself back in. And
no, you can't.
Yeah.
And the terms that you're saying, the mortgage, and it's absolutely, but it's symbolic interactionism, we call it in sociology, and that's so symbolic.
Yeah.
And there's symbols and there's things that are right there in front of our face, and we're not seeing them. And it's
the roads, the maps, the buildings, the infrastructure, how many steps are out the front of the building.
Absolutely. And so, I studied criminology, and environmental criminology, things are designed in a way to reflect this concept of Michel Foucault's Panopticon.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Panopticon, it was essentially it was a jail with wards or wings like a star, and in the middle you had this, and that's where the guards sat. But when the guards turned around, it didn't matter where they looked, they could look down every aisle.
Yeah.
And that's how our society is set up. It's set up in this Panopticon style thing. So you're in a prison, but an open air prison.
Yeah.
Now, I am not against stopping crime and reduce. I'm absolutely for it, because it is something that we all want to go away at night. We all want our family to come home safe.
Yeah.
That I am all for. I'm all for that. But I am somewhat reluctant to accept oppressive regimes such as scans here, QR scan to go there, I need to report my presence here. Why?
Yeah.
I'm not doing nothing wrong. What, 1% of the population does something wrong, therefore 99% has to suffer, and say, I don't want this, but you know what? It's for your own good.
Yeah.
Do it for your grandma.
Do it for your grandma.
What a crock of you know what. But we've seen that, and we've seen that manipulation occur. And we've seen Greg Hunt, February 2021, he came out and everyone missed it, and that's why I jumped so fast. I said, he said, we're enrolled in the world's largest clinical trial. Okay, we don't know exactly what it's going to bring, but it's safe and effective. What does that mean? He's saying he's actually misleading us and mincing. It's a contradiction of words. He minced the words to manipulate the people, to say we have a health minister. He's saying we want AstraZeneca and all these other vaccines. He's saying it's the world's largest clinical trial. So in other words, you've just been mandatorily enrolled in a clinical trial, which goes against all ethics. Okay, that has ever stood in time of medical ethics. Number two, he said it's safe and effective. Okay, safe and effective. Number three, he said we still don't know the results.
I don't think we know the results completely as of 2025.
I've got coronial files, Nathan. I know the results.
I actually have this really, I haven't been to so many funerals in my life as the last few years. I haven't seen so many sick people. Right? I know exactly what I mean by that, Tony, is that I've actually, in my mind, because I remember data, right? I can pull a property address that sold in a street in the back of Cairns, the other side of the country, 10 years ago, and be like, I remember that, right? And I look at when people tell me an illness I've had, and I look at the data that's come from that, and I see certain amounts of dementia that's coming through. That's an AstraZeneca result. You talk about turbo cancers, blood clots, cancers, hearts that are blown up. There's data that's coming through thick and fast of results that are happening to people that have had certain cancers, and people that are close to me, very close to me. I've been to so many funerals and that. But what I mean by that, we haven't seen the full extent of it.
No.
What's going to happen in 20 years' time, 15 years' time? How bad is it going to be? Who's going to be accountable? Who's controlling us? What's the real agenda behind it? I look at feudal peasants. I did a podcast recently on feudal age peasantry, and looking at what the wealthy rulers of the world in the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, all throughout history, and what did they have in common, what not. And people believe they're free, and just getting back to the free, we're free-range communism, right? We're no different than a free-range chicken. We're in this cage. We just believe we have freedoms. Oh, let's go and defend the country. Let's go do this. Who's the organised crime racket that's putting their hands, behind us? And I look at, it's there in plain sight. But we're trapped. And it makes me think, like, we were early to the party. I've got some questions for you, Tone, on it, but like, we were early to the party looking at monetary stuff, and you're looking at the health side of things and pharmaceutical. But what's the next chapter or the next season of this? How are they going to control us? What's the digital world going to look like? What's biometrically going to control us? What are the fears that we see there? Because we might sound like cookers talking about that today, but we go, oh yeah, the vaccine was crap. This, that, next thing. People might look at us now saying, oh, if we're going to talk about other control mechanisms, do you see anything in the future that is a big concern for you past this next stage of what they're trying to roll out? Or
I'm very concerned about the future, and in saying that, I say it in a balanced context. I'm not, jumping out, overboard with certain ways I look at it. Again, I say what I say, but I'm generally very balanced in the way. And again, I think, as we've been saying, we weren't wrong, we were early. And I think that's what people need to look at. And just because someone looks at you weird, like, that WTF look, what are you talking about? I won't say the words. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that you've got someone thinking really hard. And yes, people aren't going to agree with you, and people are going to say, well, I'm sorry, this is what my data's saying. And I'm saying, well, and I will look in the camera at each and every one of you right now, whichever one I'm looking at, but I will tell you right now, you're not wrong. There's over 140,000 listed side effects of people who have made reports. In that, there's also what we call the dark figure. The dark figure are the unreported, Nathan. They're the ones where people have it, they just don't know. Okay.
They're blown up, had a car accident.
That at the end of the day, you've got you were mentioning it a moment ago. You've got people who are saying, well, I've got dementia, or the early onset of dementia, or some form of that, or there's a cancer that is great. We've never had cancer in our family. We've also got these issues of myocarditis or granulomatous type growths on the myocardium. Now, these are issues, that are squarely linked to the vaccine. Okay, I have two coronial. I've got more, but I've got two coronial files with me now. One actually concedes from the coroner's office, a forensic pathologist, that a 52-year-old gentleman, within 7 days of having the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, and I'll say that because it's in the documents and it's not misinformation, and he died on the kitchen floor with his 16-year-old son doing CPR. What a tragic circumstance that would be for a 16-year-old son to walk into the kitchen. His dad's had a heart attack, laying on the floor. He's doing his best to save his dad's life. His dad was forced to take that because he had to work. And they say it wasn't coercion. Now, I submitted that in the case of Kassam. Okay, again, rejected. Okay, this is evidence. Well, that one death should have been enough to stop everything. One death. That's all we should have had. Then I had the 61-year-old chap. This is groundbreaking, what I have in this case. And I mean, no one can foresee where this is going, because I had labs from Europe and America come back to me and say, you are the only person in the world that has this evidence of what the Pfizer injection has done. We want it, we want it. Now, this is a 61-year-old chap. Died within 27 hours of having the Pfizer vaccine. I'm not saying it's causally linked. I'm saying it is pretty damn close, and we're investigating. I'm like a hound dog when it comes to that, and I'm going to keep fighting for that. Stay tuned, everyone, and if you want to get me back on, we'll tell you what the results are. But it's happening. Coming back to your point, being early is not wrong, everyone. The science is on your side. It's not on their side. They are losing the battle big time. Losing, Nathan.
I get excited when I see people waking up, but it gets sad because it's too late as well. Like, it's just, really? Like, I have people that die and I ask the hard questions sometimes. I'm like, hey, tell me, just ask people. Like, I have to ask like, for my own thought of, like, shit, like, I care that someone's had a loved one, something's gone wrong.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. And I just, like, no one asks these people. I'm just like, okay, what did they have? How many did they have? When did they last have this one? And, people are probably watching and going, oh, Birchy's like fucking wicked with what he's asking these questions, right? But I have to, and I see the patterns, and I'm like, this isn't, I go on Facebook every day, and I've got lots of people on Facebook that follow and stuff, and I see them like, rest in peace this person. I'm like, these look like young people. My Facebook feed didn't look like this 5 years ago. It didn't look like this. I'm thinking, am I delusional by thinking that it didn't look like it and it did look like it? What happened? And there's only certain things like, oh, it's global warming. Oh, it must be because your gas prices have gone up. You're getting stressed. No one's talking. We haven't even touched on seed oils, the food, the poisons, the chemicals in the food. I go into a supermarket and I think 99% of the stuff in the supermarket is out to kill me. Like I look at it, I'm like, that food's got all these poisons in it.
Yeah.
That's the next stage. It's like the longevity of our lives. But it is very sad.
Going on your point, but where are we heading in the future?
Yeah.
If I had a crystal ball,
yeah.
I don't know exactly where, but it's looking dangerous. It's looking rather ominous, and I say that because of the international health regulations that are or just passed on the 19th or to be passed on the 19th. I wrote about that years ago, and again, everyone's looking at me saying, what the hell is this guy talking about? And I was speaking about the censorship, how they're going to do certain issues, how they're going to try and control our society, but it's not us. Yeah. It's a non-sovereign NGO. Yeah. Okay. Now they're controlling our policies. They're censoring medical information and all other information that they deem not to be satisfied to their standard. That is dangerous. Number two, you look at the biometrics. Now, we're going back to that philosophical view of Michel Foucault, the Panopticon. Okay, a QR code. Yeah. They're doing that in Aldi's in England, by the way. You've got a QR code to get into that little swing door. Yeah. Okay. So you've got a QR code to get. I've got a QR code to shop. Are you freaking serious?
Next it'll be, you know, deep in the wrist or the forehead, and be like.
You had the QR code. I had to go here, had to go there, and that's what we were saying. We weren't cookers. We were early. We're telling you this is a dangerous sign for where future. So what we know is biometrics and all that. We know we're heading in that direction. Yeah. But more importantly, it's not a case of, you know, what are you doing or what's Tony doing? It's a case of what are you doing? Yeah. Are you going to do something about it? Are you going to stand up? And we spoke about it right at the start. Are you going to question it? Yeah. Stand up and question it. I'm not asking you to grab a pitchfork and a Molotov cocktail and throw it at someone. I'm not asking that.
It's not going to do anything. It's just going to put a dent. It's going to put a dent somewhere.
It's going to inflame them to come and say, oh, look at these crazy. No, you do it eloquently. You do it in a way that says, hang on, I don't like what you're saying. I'm standing up against it. And you know what? When we go to the votes, remember, Labor only got like 34.5 or 34.6 of the votes. Percent of the votes. Totally. It was only by way of this rigged preferencing system that they got to that percentage. And in terms of that, that's telling you that both major parties are falling foul of the Australian electorate. That is significant. Okay, that's telling you that there's a big move. Coming back to where we're going economically, I think is also another big move that we need to consider. Yes, healthcare and public health is very important, and yes, we need investments, but we shouldn't also be taking down a road where those taxpayer funds, and remember the taxpayer rules the cash, not the government, because the government holds it on trust for the taxpayer. And they need to dispense with those funds according to what is in our best interest. Our best interest is not being lied to about pharmaceutical products. That'll take billions out, and I say that on the basis of my book chapter 16, International Handbook of Whistleblower Research, 2014. It's got cases, it's got everything there. I urge you to read it because that's where I unpacked a lot of that stuff. But it's very important because, you know, in your financial game, that if we raid the coffers of our nation and not invest wisely, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble, and our kids are going to grow up poor. Our kids aren't going to have the same issues and things that we had. They're not going to be able to buy a home. They're already not. They already can't buy a home. Because they're being geared. And you touched on this, and I want to hear your view because that's your wheelhouse.
No. Look, I always say, like, I feel like people are like the debt enslavement system, right? It's like it's a system there to trap us, and every decade there's new ways. It's a big, in my view, it's a big Ponzi scheme, and they just keep pushing the buttons. And people go, oh, it's a Liberal, it's a Labor, it's, you know, whatever. And I believe you ran for
One Nation.
How goes that?
It I've caused a bit of trouble. I came in very late in the process, and I do what I do. I'm just a pest.
The system needs people like you, Tony, because I look at it, and I grew up in a Liberal household, and everything was like, oh, it's Labor's fault, it's Labor's fault. Today I'd say I'm politically atheist because I'm looking at everyone, and I don't care if you got the left or the right. If you got two puppets, one on each hand, I want to know who the puppet master is. I want to know who's controlling that wing. And you know, when we talk about entities or corporations that have the power to change government and Parliament, it's a scary mixture that, you know, I see, you know, if we look back, I just turned 40, so I was born in 85, and I'll just use the 80s and 90s, right? And people go, oh, Keating, the recession we had to have. He was probably the honest Prime Minister at the time saying it's a recession. People go, it's Paul Keating screwed up everything. When you look at every other country around the world, they all had the same recession that occurred at the time. They had a monetary crisis. And what came from the end of that? Well, they just enslaved people more. So in 1971, they changed the currency and they took us off the dollar standard and put us on the petrodollar, meaning they just print as much money as they want. Had some levels of inflation. They tried to control that. It crashed the economy. But then in 1992, in the recession we had to have, what they did is they empowered the woman, and they go, oh, the woman's rights. I believe here in Australia everyone had equal rights, but they sort of encouraged the breakdown of the family unit, send the wife to go to work. They built the childcare rebate system in place. They then had 2 tax slaves in their household. They had 2 incomes coming into their household instead of 1. And then suddenly everything got inflated away. They printed over the problem that was there. They created a whole new industry as the childcare industry. And then we had the next boom bust that came another few years later, and they just keep patching this thing together to the GFC after that, after the dot-com crash, after the planes went off course. There's another story we won't talk about. But then we got to Corona.
The Y2K.
The Y2K as well, right?
2000, everyone at midnight, everything's going to
crash, yeah.
It's what a crock of, you know what.
Probably 2 years ago, I forgot all about the Y2K. About 2 years ago, I was in some area like Western Sydney. I was walking past some shops and I saw a window of like a cash converter store, not a cash converter, but like a second-hand store where they sell second-hand goods and that. And there was a generator, and it said Y2K compliant. I saw this sticker, I was like, Y2K compliant. I was like, shit, the Y2K. I forgot all about that.
Yes,
right?
Petrol. Nothing's going to be the petrol.
Right? And then now today we're going, oh, we're going to get rid of it. We're going to have your EV, right? And it's like, I saw a car accident on the news recently, right? And I jump around with different things, right? But on that note of electric vehicles, so we talk what could come next, right? This whole grid of control that we have, and it's getting worse and worse. In our life, you're a lawyer, you see the laws, they keep putting more and more laws, more and more control since the day we were born. Doesn't matter how.
But they're not taking them off.
No.
They just keep putting them on.
Correct.
They've still got laws about steam engines. They're literally still there. You know? And it's ridiculous, because if you're going to put them on, take them off. Take the ones, and I'm a lawyer. You know, for laws and this and that, and it's great. And you know, look, the police need to be able to enforce. They need power to make an enforcement action. You need that power. And again, you know, I used to work in intelligence, the drug, and I used to work really closely with police, and I've got a lot of good mates. And you know what? Yes, we do take them on in court, but I've got immense respect for them. They have some of the hardest work, and they do cop a lot of crap out there, and they do make mistakes, just as anyone else makes mistakes. But these laws, they're coming on, and they're always seeking to put more laws and drag people further back. When I hear tax reform to me says, I'm introducing another tax, and guess what? You're going to go and work harder. I'm going to give you a $3.50 pay rise per hour, or whatever it is, or you know, per week. And on top of that, what are we going to do? We're going to raise the price of bread, milk. CPI is going to go up 3%. You know, according to that, everything else is going up. We're going to introduce a further tax, and I say, well, no one got a rise. It's misleading again. It's misleading.
On that rise, like they go, oh, we're going to tax the rich. Like, I'm not even like, I'm as a politically atheist on that front. I'm not for or against anyone. I just look at the system. But everyone's going, oh, Trump. He's putting in these tariffs, right? 50% tariff. Like, you charge 50% extra on something, that means the cost of it's going to go up so high. These taxes are going to come in, but everyone's pushing for the tax, and it's like that's running to the arms of your oppressor. Is to wanting that stuff. I see. What I was saying with like the cars, like the electric cars we have. I noticed there was some car accident. It was in a news article, and then they had footage. I'm like, how did they get the footage of that happening, right? And I looked, and I see on the side of a Tesla, I'll never have a green energy car, I'll have a petrol car, right? Getting on steam engines, right? Because if we don't get our 45th booster, we're not going to be able to start the car. They need and I looked at the car, and these cars have cameras. They're a surveillance system. Like the Tesla's got the cameras. I'm like, is Tesla a car company, or is it a tech company that's getting that geoengineering geomapping to map out where everything is and track and trace, just like your phone is a map, is another level of that. I just question everything that's getting installed in the world today. And
but at least to the Panopticon, right? Because I had a friend who said to me, and it's a really good point you raised there, but and he said, I was getting in my Tesla and it said I couldn't go anywhere for 2 hours because it was updating. So it was an operating system update. He couldn't go anywhere for 2 hours.
Crazy.
And, you know, look, I don't own a Tesla. I don't know, you know, what it is and this and that. But, you know, if that's the case, well, I'm thinking to myself, well, it leads to that Panopticon type feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that's very scary because you're right, that geospatial engineering, because not just them, you've got Skynet as well.
Yeah.
And that is another issue where, look, in one sense they're saying the interconnectedness of the world, but that's also the very scary thing, because that's the very thing where you can walk down the street and you're being fined, or, you know, something happens and you know nothing about it. You know nothing about it. You're in your car, me and you are having a chat. We're having a lazy little chat. Maybe, you know, ex-footy players were talking about something, bang, it hits all over the internet because your car spied on you.
Correct.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like,
correct.
Really?
Correct.
I'm a petrol guy. I've got a V8.
I want to be the king of the old world. That's what I think in 2025, right? Like, if you can go back, do all the cool old things back in the day, have all the powerful things that were of yesteryear. You're going to be on top of the new world that's being presented to us. And you asked my thoughts on the kids of today and people trying to get ahead. I see the system is fully against them, and it's a Ponzi scheme. I'm all about, probably got hundreds of properties that I own. I became well known because I just buy properties and rent them out and all that sort of stuff. But the thing I see, everyone goes, oh, is it a bubble or whatever? The property itself is not the bubble. The money that they just keep printing, no one's property got better. They go and put on the media that it's because of a young person having avocado on toast, a baby boomer not moving out of their house. But they never say, hey, we printed $1 trillion worth of debt and installed it to everyone and signed you up to all this debt. The nations, there's hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of debt around the world, and people have to take debt just to survive now, so they're becoming more and more enslaved to this system, and they'll give you a little bit of something, but it's only take more slavery from you.
And a little bit, but I'll give you 5, but we're taking 15.
Exactly.
On the other end, but you don't feel the 15 because it's like a very thin salami slice.
Yes.
You don't feel the salami slice, you know, it doesn't fill you up. If you ate the whole salami, you go, wow, that's really filling. But they give you a little slice, and that's what people don't realise. And I think you're touching on a really good point there, which is when you were talking about the investment, and they say one thing, as Greg Hunt, I was talking about with the medical, the jabs. The issue is they say, well, we're looking after our economy, we're doing this, we're doing that. Well, if we're that strapped for cash and we're $1 trillion or whatever it is in debt, why are we sending money overseas, number one? And it's taxpayer money, okay? Why aren't we looking after Australians? And I don't say that from a racist, xenophobic, I don't say that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this, we need to look after our country, we need to look after its resources, we need to enrich ourselves to the point to where we now get leverage in trade agreements, okay? And I think when we look at it that way, you're not being xenophobic, you're not being racist, you're actually saying, how can I improve this? And why do I say that? Because I also do a lot of pro bono work.
Okay.
And in that time, what I'll do is, there's women escaping domestic violence and they'll have kids, and I'll literally use my time and I'll go out there, I'll grab them, and I'll take them go-karting. And I'll say, just go and have a nice day. Just have, and I'll be there and I'll take them for a hamburger and chips. And I'll literally do this from my own free will, and I just want them to experience something to where those boys or girls grow up and say, look, not all guys are bad and not all mums are bad. We're being told these toxic masculinity and toxic feminism, and no, guys and women, we are who we are. Just you said something. Strip it back. Go back to the day to where we had these roles. Because a man is a man, a woman is a woman. I'm not stopping you from doing anything in saying that. No way. You want to become an engineer, a parachutist, a civil, whatever. You do it. Okay. You want to take 15 vaccines? Take it. Not my.
Just don't force it on me. Don't force it on the kids. Don't force it on them.
But also, let's work within those parameters of how we became successful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a moment ago about, using that, your properties, and I'd really love to know a little bit more about that, because my understanding is when you buy a property, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's right.
You buy the property, and if we invest wisely, that is, and we learn these investment strategies, they don't want you to know these, so Birchy's going to give you a little bit of a tip here in a second. But you buy that. Now, my understanding is when you use the equity out of your home, let's say you've got a $1 million property, I've got $500,000 worth of equity, I can then split that equity, for example, by 2 homes. I'll split it 250 each. I'll put a deposit on 2 homes. Now I can rent out. That gives me cash flow. That cash flow then gives me further equity to build on, and also leverages the bank to say, hang on a second, we've got something here, so now we're making our money work smarter, not harder.
I haven't even spoken to Tony about this, but yes, that's correct, right? And that's the whole. I look at it as it's a banker's game. Everyone says, "Oh, my place went up in value." It's like, no, it didn't. It just meant that more people around you were enslaved to be able to get more debt, to pay more for the other assets that are around you. So the money is losing its value. The assets are rising because of that. You need more money to buy the same thing. So the more assets you can hold, the more wealth you're going to create. And we would have grown up in the same sort of belief systems of debt's bad and go pay things cash, whatever. But when you realise that you can go and earn whatever money, you can earn $1,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, whatever it is. But that money, if you had $1,000 in the bank, it will never buy you as much as it will to today if you can spend it today. So the opposite to cash is debt. And if the cash is losing its value, the debt is losing its value as well. So the debt becomes irrelevant with inflation. So I see these little cracks, and in the start it was just about buying properties and going.
Can you explain that? Just explain that debt loses value as well. That's a very important point.
So in let's say 2005, right? I would have been like 20 years old. I was getting properties for 200 grand in Sydney, and I was like, shit, I'm going to go bankrupt because I've got a 200 grand debt on it, right? Or a 200 grand purchase price. I look back now and it's worth $1 million, right? But then I look at a car today, and one of my mates rocked up recently and he bought around a new Ford Ranger Raptors 6 months ago or so. And when he came around that, I was like, oh, what did you pay for this? And he said $110,000 for a Ford, right? A Ford Ute, 110 grand. I'm like, that car is still the same as the car. It's actually, the quality of it's lesser than the previous models. It might look better or whatever. It's got some more surveillance system in it, but it's like the quality's like more plasticky and all that. But then I'm like, that's the price of a property 15, 20 years ago. And if you can, let's say a paddle pops for $1, right? And you had $1,000, you could buy 1,000 paddle pops. So today, paddle pops are $4 a piece or something, right? So you've had $1,000, you buy 250 paddle pops. So if you went back and you bought 10,000 paddle pops and got 10 grand debt to buy 10,000 paddle pops, and you to sell them today, you'd end up, 4 times the money. And it's because you can pay back that debt, because the debt became irrelevant, like it's lost its value. The cash, you're paying someone back a devalued currency. We can sit here and pull out a $100 note from our wallet that was made in 1995, and you'd be like, here's a $100 note. When you held that note in 1995, you could buy a lot of shit with $100, right? Today, you pull out a $100 note and say, okay, we'll pay for 2 pizzas, right? We're gonna, it's what dinner's gonna cost. So I look at it from all that perspective, and it's like, well, I just want as much asset as I can control, because inevitably this system is falling apart in front of us. And a lot of people get fearful. I would imagine they'd get fearful, going, it sounds too doom and gloomy. It's like, that's the opportunity. I haven't asked you yet, Tony, like who you think sort of owns our life, right? Like, we're born in this world and we go to the school and we do all this stuff, right? Many hundreds of years ago and thousands of years ago, there was different principles and religious texts, without going into religion too much. But then today we've got a government that's controlled by evil entities that, whatnot. But we're in a world where they can literally just print this money. They're literally printing. Who's controlling us, right? They're printing this money, right? You can go out there and earn 100 grand a year, 200 grand a year, 300 grand, 500 grand. But more than you can earn that. There's literally people, and I don't know who, right? It's like Scooby-Doo, right? We're trying to find we're trying to follow the money trail, right? But it's like they're printing this debt, putting us into debt, enslaving all of us. We're just sitting here going, oh, okay, cool, Kardashians is great, State of Origin, cool, right? No one's asking questions, no one's there with the pitchforks. And I'm just like, well, they've created this table for me. The reason why I do what I do, and I see it so clearly now, is they played this game. They put this game in front of us.
Keep the masses occupied so they don't focus on how to get themselves out of enslavement. It's a very simple principle. It's been going on for hundreds of years. The Colosseum,
the Roman Empire with the bread and wine.
Let's throw them to the lions.
Yeah.
Let's put on a spectacle, because now everyone's going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on getting my kids to sport. There's nothing wrong with sport. I played sport, footy, and all that sort of stuff. Loved it. Parents took me all over that great stuff. Encourage everyone. Keep doing it. It's not a bad thing. But stay tuned to what's happening around you.
Yeah.
And that's what we're losing. State of origin, the country nearly closes down, or New South Wales and Queensland do. I love the state of origin. Me, I'm right on it.
Yeah.
But I don't turn off.
Yeah.
I don't turn off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll escape for that momentary bit, but there's always that issue of where's this country heading, where are we going? But in terms of the issue with respect to debt and enslavement things, yes, debt is an enslaving tool. I think, and I know at our firm we do a lot of commercial stuff, so we also encourage people, for instance, splitting your taxes. Okay. And I think that was a One Nation policy, and I think the Liberal Party also came on with that.
Okay.
Again, I treat politics in a way to where I look at where the policies are heading, not the person. And unfortunately, the media is really good at focusing on, for instance, I'll just make a fictitious name. Mr. Jones, wants to go for Prime Minister. Back in the day, he sent a text message to a girl saying, "Hi, you look sexy." Well, hello, really? Is that really a crime? No, it's not. Or, he smoked a joint when he was younger. Well, really?
People. Yeah.
What I'm doing, they're going for character assassinations.
Yeah.
And that is what they do, and that is their game, and that's how they'll do it. Now, they've done it to a lot of politicians over time. I won't name them. But they continually do it. Well, we've got the President of the USA, is constantly President Trump. He copped it for years. The Russia hoax, sexual assault allegations, and all these various other issues, tax evasion, and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think the people need to wake up and say it's merely a sideshow. Because usually, if they're attacking you, my view is, they've upset the people in the background. And I can tell you now that there's bureaucrats who work for government who sit on massive consulting firms here in Australia, and those consulting firms are both from the legal and accounting spheres, which are really the dominant areas, and they sit as guest directors on these boards. Now, I say to myself, well, hang on, here are those hidden hands of the government transferring or imparting its knowledge onto these larger consulting firms who get millions and millions of dollars by way of government contracts. Those government contracts keep them silent because they're saying, I'm not going to eat the hands that feeds me, but or bite the hand that feeds me. And that's why, and so they become protectionist. And that then imparts that knowledge and creates this protectionist sphere around what we're getting with respect to investment. And so when you look at the income splitting, for instance, in a household, mum stays home, looks after the kids, gives kids that respect. These kids, they're coming out these days, and I know when I was working in and around the police, kids were coming in and they had just such disrespect. I remember, if you took a photo and, back in the day, and when we were growing up, our parents told us, respect authority, you respect the police, don't talk back, and talk to your elders with respect. You see a pregnant lady get on the train, get up and give her a seat. You see an old lady, she's struggling with a heavy shopping bag, help her out or help her get the trolley there. Mate, no, you know what's happening? They're stealing the trolley, or they're just on their phones looking at a pregnant lady, in a week or two she's going to give birth. We've got people escaping domestic violence, as I was talking earlier. They're sleeping in cars. They've got their kids, and they move the kids out of the back. They've got all their material in the back of a station wagon, so they've got their food and products in the back of the station wagon. At night they get it, they put it under the car, they get the kids, and they sleep in the back of a car. And we're sending this money overseas while this is happening on our streets, and they're leaving. Why are they in the car? Well, domestic violence, so family violence, and it could go both ways. We've got financial pressures, right?
Massive.
Taxes, increases, mortgages. In the last 2 weeks, I'm telling you, I've had about 8 or 9 phone calls, of people saying, they're about to foreclose on my house. Please, I need help. What can I do? These are the families that are on the street. And then we've got Prime Minister and these sorts of people, and where their allegiances are, I don't know, because when this is happening to your country,
follow who put them there.
That's
right.
Who's
placed them? Who's placed the avatar on the? Who's put the SIM card in the phone?
We're losing this money.
And
why? And that money is being lost, and we've got women and children and men too living homeless. They were once contributing factors to our economy, which makes it stronger. Why are they now going from the middle class to the lower classes? Well, that is a failed policy. It's not Labor, it's not Liberal, it's the both of them. They have absolutely failed this country. They have failed this country. And that upsets me, because I see this, I hear this, and on a daily basis, when we look at it and we do these structuring, and I love what you're saying, because you're talking about ways of getting around and saying, okay, well, it's not about getting out of the system, it's about using the system to your advantage.
Because everyone's using it. Everyone out there is using it.
Absolutely.
And the information is suppressed from...
Yes, on how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Therefore, we suppress the people. That joint tax thing, what I was talking about, you keep mum at home, dad earns $140,000, but because mum's working at home, you split it and say they're both taxed at $70,000 each. You've just reduced taxable income in that household. You've put those kids maybe into a program that is, a sporting program, and it's a benefit, or, there's their trip to Disneyland, in
there's the food for them to eat, there's the school fees.
You spoke about $100. I used to talk really, I use the negative and try and make it a bit humorous, where Australian kids are so strong they can carry $200 worth of shopping in one hand. But that's... I'm turning it into a bit of a humorous side, but it's actually sad, because it's showing you inflation.
I came out in 2017, everyone, the comments on my YouTube videos were like, I've never touched drugs in my life, right? I'm just naturally wild, right? I think I'm on the spectrum or something, right? So people were like, you've lost the plot, I'm unsubscribing. Get off the drugs, Birchy, right? Whatever, right? They're just like the things that I was saying. And what I was talking about was a hyperinflation that would come. And I was excited by it, because I've done a lot of research, and I've never lived in a hyperinflation. I'm looking at them that have occurred throughout decades and hundreds of years and thousands of years throughout the world. Hyperinflation is one of the last things that happens before the empire falls, and it happened in the Roman Empire, it's happened in every empire that's risen up since, and it's a downfall of a society from too much control, manipulation, greed, and fraud that's happened on a financial level. And the government, I just think the government is a middle management for the upper level, and the upper level is never talked about, it's never out there, it's never seen.
Well, they're controlled by the massive corporations.
Correct.
Right? Let's face it.
And then who follows that? Where does that go?
They're controlled, because the massive lobby groups, they infiltrated, they have infected every hall of Parliament, and in so doing, they've compromised what it is to be socially aware. And that's not saying that we shouldn't engage in free market economy, which I'm a big fan of, because you can't just spend on public spending, because spending is spending. We need to make it, but making it at the expense of society turning into some sort of lower class communism type. I'll give you what you want. You now need to pay homage to the great leader of Australia. Well, no, that's not how it's going to be. And yes, we do need to work smarter, not harder. And a really resourceful country looks at how it can look within to work out a way in which we can generate that economy, and how can we do it? Well, we use our resources to our advantage, and this is what and that's what appeals to me about what you say and the way you do it. And I wouldn't be worried about people saying get off the drug. You're just merely pointing out a fact. Okay, you are. You're merely pointing out a fact. I have a concern. I hope it doesn't occur. But if it does,
get prepared.
Get ready. And now there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not a cooker, that's not a prepper, it's not about anything else. It's about you saying, hey guys, let's get ready, because if something happens, we need a nest egg. It's like putting, the old days, what did grandma and grandpa used to, they used to put some cash in a pillowcase and hide it under their pillow. They don't do that anymore.
No, it's cash.
Because now you've got to go to the bank and tell them where you got it from. And that's another issue.
More laws, right?
Yes,
it's like
more laws.
We're doing it for your own safety, right? 10,000 in the 90s, buy you heaps, right? 10,000 now gets you
how much is
nothing. I don't even know, like probably 50, 70k, something like that. It's like
10k.
It's
10k got you a half decent car.
But if you have 10 grand you deposit, you don't get to say where it's from. You're financial terrorist. You're like, it's like
get my legs waxed. I need 10 grand.
Exactly.
It's a really good job. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is primo stuff. Primo wax.
That's the wild world we live in, and I just see it getting worse. But I see there's heaps of great opportunities.
I ask you? Sorry, I want to ask you a question now. I know we just spoke about the income splitting, which, in my view, is a very clever way of reducing taxable income. That's a really good way. Two questions I've got for you, but one after the other. Superannuation. Okay. Now, my question, if it's okay, I want to ask you this, is that if I was to get superannuation, let's say I used my superannuation, let's say Albanese's saying 5% on the house deposit. Again, I'm not a big fan of that because it just places you further in debt. But let's assume $1 million house, what is it, 50 grand?
50 grand,
deposit. I go out of my super, I can put it across there. I now let my super work my investment. At the end of the day, if we amend another law and introduce that back in the Superannuation Industry Act, and we then so the investment grows. So we've got that investment, we're leveraging out of the super, we're creating cash flow now, because now whether I want an investment or whether I want a primary residence, I use my super and now I get control of my super, rather than having some other bloke saying, I'm going to go invest it on some sketchy place that could lose, and you know what, in 40 years time, 50 years, it's not worth what it used to be, and he's put on that unrealised gain. Like, are you serious? We're getting ripped. They're telling you, we're going to rip you off in 40 years' time when you can do nothing about it.
Super's something that's very wild, right? Like, because back in the 90s, before the recession we had to have, of course, there was no super. But then they introduced super. And I think about it, it's like everyone's now putting 10%, or there would have been like 7% or whatever at the time. Now it's like 12% of your income, right?
12.5, I think,
So I look at it from a real, I zoom out from that side. And I think, well, what happened when they introduced super? And they introduced the same policies all around the world. Well, they collected capital from everyday people, and then they opened up the markets, the stock markets and the financial markets, and they're injecting liquidity to keep those markets and prop them up, the artificial markets, the Ponzi schemes that are out there at the financial markets. And then every time I see that there's going to be some sort of little crash or some little blip in the economy, they just go and increase super. Right, so they've increased it from 7%, 8%, 9%, 9.25, 9.5, 10%, 11%, now it's 12%. If you just increase it 1%, you're literally taking 1%, you're putting a pressure on a business, taking 1% of everyone's income in the country and injecting it into financial markets that now they can go and use fractional reserve banking and create new financial instruments out of. So this is going on a hyperdrive now of the level of control and sticky taping of the old system together. And I personally, we've seen.
So what you're saying, it's almost like a band-aid approach.
A part of it's a band-aid. It's like it's a Ponzi scheme that you're forced to use, right? And you're mandated to do it. And people don't think about it. They're educated to go, oh, it's just with the safe guy, right? We've all seen Wolf of Wall Street, and you see those sort of guys, and they're the same people that are managing these super funds.
And he was doing cocaine on girls' stomachs and backs. And I think that's what they're doing.
That's your super fund.
Sometimes I think that's what they're doing in Parliament.
Pretty much. Right? I look at it all. I'm like, they're just as silly as those people that are.
Their rationale.
Yeah.
I keep saying they're on drugs.
Yeah. So I look at it from that perspective. That's one angle.
Yes.
People are walking around with like $250,000, $100,000, $200,000, $500,000. They don't know they've got it. There's things that you can do, self-managed super funds, all different vehicles that you can put into, that you can gain that control back. For me, I like to have control. I like physical assets. It doesn't matter if it's cryptocurrency or if it's property. Property's my favourite go-to. If it's business, I like to have the control over that, so I can. I think super is something that's there. We're forced to use it. You want to see.
Do you like that idea of shifting? Let's say, grab it out of
100%.
the super, put it into a realisable asset.
100%.
That you can grow and you choose, and then you can put that 50 once it's realised back into the super, but it's actually growing now.
Correct.
Everything's growing.
And you've leveraged it, right?
Yes.
So your 50 grand, if you had a 5% growth on 50 grand in your super, that'd be 2.5 grand, right? So 2.5 grand, it's nothing. But if you took that 50k, you bought $1 million asset, and that $1 million asset went up by 10%, that 10% goes up 100 grand. So your 50 grand has just earned 200% return on that value.
Yes.
Because you've leveraged it.
Yeah.
You can't leverage it inside your super fund. So
no, you can't.
You can if you have a self-managed.
Oh yes, that SMSF.
SMSF. But I think it's a fantastic idea, and the more control that you can take back from that system. You want to see how big of a scam a super fund industry is. If you're going to set up a self-managed super fund, the red tape, the regulation around setting that up, you have to go and beg them basically to give you your money to be released from the super fund. I look at the super funds and people go, it's gone up a lot, it's gone up 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand this year. But when you really think about it, how much did you contribute to it? What expenses did they take from it? Who's the little dodgy hands that are playing in the back end of it? People say to me, my super fund, it's invested into shares and it's invested into property. It's like, well, what property? And they go, it's into some fund. It's a cash flow booster fund or some random name they put on it. It's like, well, is it the property or is it invested into bonds that are now given out to other financial institutions that are lending on? Yeah. So it's like, it's just a big Ponzi. And I look at, in the early days of 2020, the financial market stepped back like 40% in a lot of instances, paper markets did. And super funds, people lost a lot in their super when that day happened.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that day will come again. It'll be more harsh.
It's going to come again.
Yeah. And then when people go, I saw my clients when I speak to them, they're like, open book, they're like, here's what I earn, this is what I got, this is what I spend all my money on, we can make advice from there. I see people super, and the units inside the super were X dollars and now they're worth Y. And I'd see someone with 200 grand, it went down to 130 grand, and then a year later they come back and go, it's okay, it's recovered, it's now worth 200 grand again, right? And I think about it, I'm like, no, your money did not recover, because what happened is, a year ago you could have bought a lot more stuff for 100 grand, and now the 100 grand only buys you half because of inflation.
To your inflation point earlier.
Correct. So the more control you have, you want to own assets. Debt is good because you can pay back worthless currency to get rid of that debt. And I think the system is designed to benefit certain people, and I think everyone has the ability to play that game if they play it right.
Yeah. And I think leveraging, so once I got it there and I give it back to the super, then I should be able to do it again on another property.
Correct.
Over here.
Yeah.
Now here we have a person, and coincidentally, I am not a fan of the unrealised. I reckon that is the biggest scam, and I call it a scam because it is a scam.
Yeah.
Okay, they're taxing us for something we don't have. It's going to be one of the world's first, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm actually disgusted they actually came up with something like that.
Yeah.
But
it's an insult to everybody.
It is literally an insult. It's a big slap in the face.
Yeah.
You're going to work all your life, and guess what? We're going to do a tax reform.
Yeah.
Okay, introduce a new tax that's going to slap you with something because as inflation goes up,
they've mismanaged their funds.
That 2 million I would have had is now worth 3 million. They now get their hands on it.
Yeah.
I've worked my whole life and busted it. Dusk till dawn or whatever it is, and or dawn till dusk, depending on what shift you're on. But that there is the most ridiculous policy, and I think it should be scrapped, and I think it needs to be repealed.
Yeah.
But having said that those properties that someone has, by them having that financial freedom, they are now not reliant on
the system.
A social system.
Correct.
They're not relying on that. And and maybe I'm being pessimistic, maybe I'm not, but they're pushing people towards that socialised system.
100%.
And that is the rigged game. It is a rigged game.
In the final days of most systems, and you look at when hyperinflation hits, so hyperinflation is really the last part in the downfall of the system. Like businesses just start crumbling constantly due to the fact that the pressure for costs and the cost of goods and all that just erode anything left of the business. And then when there's no business and there's no supplies, then there's further pressure on the system. And then that just creates more violence and the unraveling of it. And that's sort of where it could go. I don't think it's going to be Mad Max style, but I think that
it's not. But you touched on a really good point there, and we spoke about the criminology a little bit earlier. And I worked in that area for quite some time. Merton had a theory called strain. Okay? If you put strain on the system, it puts strain on livelihoods. Okay. What does it do? Well, it creates people now they're becoming desperate. They can't buy, they can't sustain that level of living, therefore more people turn towards crime. Okay, now how does that work? Well, they did a really good study, especially in environmental criminology, and this is why you're starting to see gentrification in the area. It's a really good thing, by the way. I'm not criticising, I'm just letting you know how we get to this point to where if you see cars with smashed windows, sitting on bricks, graffiti everywhere, well, you're going to say, I really don't want to go to that area, but it's also going to tell you it's pretty well a crime area. But if we change that scenario,
there's opportunity.
We now do some proactive policing, we do some issues in there, we clean the area up. Now, what happens? Well, those properties and those cars all go up in price. Those people who are now living there, they all benefit. There's no crime. Well, there's always going to be crime. There's always going to be crime. It'll never be eliminated, no matter what any media channel or politician tells you. We're going to get tough on crime. They can get tough on crime. It'll never be eliminated. There's always going to be a way around it. But at the end of the day, we actually work on policies that benefit. So we work smarter, not harder, which is the key to it. But using that super and dragging it across. But one thing we also do at my firm is implement trusts.
Okay. Beautiful.
So a discretionary trust. And for instance, and again, I want to tap into your brain in a moment, but let's say I've got a business and I want to protect that business, and for anyone out there that's got a business or whatever you're doing out there, you want to have a look at maybe seeing a lawyer who's got a good accountant friend, and you can set up these, and they're absolutely legitimate, right? They're absolutely legitimate, whether it's a discretionary or a family trust. But let's look at the discretionary one for the purposes of today. We get that discretionary trust. I've got multiple businesses. I now put them into a trust. I now start using those to protect assets. So if something happens to my business, well, my assets survive, that sort of stuff. But what's also the tax benefit in that, let's say I've got 3-4 children, they're in university, they're not really earning a lot of money. I'm earning the cash. I'm not really, but I'm just... but
we're on the food line. We're earning less than 40 grand a year, so...
I've got the food stamps going. But I now get that, and let's say $180,000 a year. I can then distribute that across my beneficiaries and get them to a point to where they're just hitting that tax threshold of income, and I can now distribute that income across, and now it's less taxable. They don't hit the threshold. Everyone benefits. What do you think about trust?
Well, I like trust. I think they have a place. Some people can benefit from greatly. Some people, it may be a negative.
Have a place. I like that word.
They have a place. Like I see people with like 20 properties, and like most of my clients, they come to me and they've got like 1 or 2 properties, and or they might have no property. There's ATO statistics that show that there's less than 20,000 people with 6 or more properties out there. Less than 2,500 people with 10 or more properties. Most of my clients, when you see all those news articles of like the kid with 20 properties that's 25 years old or whatever, there's probably an 80% chance it's one of my clients that's out there. I see a lot of people that get to the 10, 20, 30 properties, they may not need a trust until they get to 10, 15 or 20. I see people that need it from day one, and they buy their first property under trust, and they buy them all under the trust. The thing I was thinking a lot from that and the reason why I'm saying some people it could and some people it's not is depending on finance, where they're located.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if you've got no property, you buy one in New South Wales, and you put that one property under trust, you've got to pay land tax from day one. But if you're buying, once you've exhausted all the tax benefits on your personal name, that can become more beneficial, in my view, to go into trust. But from a lending perspective, there's lots of new loan products out there. The loan products will allow for you to, the loan products will allow for you to get the accountant to say, yep, that thing's self-funding and it's neutral positive cash flow, so the bank will not take that debt onto your debt level. So they don't assess you based on that. So there is some, and those loopholes may change, just like they do with any level of government. The banking system will put those measures in. But I think trusts are a very good and wise tool that people should.
There's a place for them.
Yeah,
and they're not just don't go carte blanche, because I get a lot. The reason I ask is because I get a lot of calls and they see a lot of social media, Nathan. And they say, oh, I want a family trust and I want to put it here. But what have you got? If you got, is it just your primary place of residence? Are you running a business?
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to utilise a bucket company on the side? Or it's not just I hear something, therefore I want to do it. You do need to be guided.
You need the advice.
You're saying, you're saying the right, which is, we've got to look at the structure, and it's not as simple as I want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of soak it all up. What do I need? Can I ask you this now? For a kid who wants to get into the market, when I say kid,
anyone 20 years old or whatever,
20, 25, 30, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not saying that derogatory or anyone. But,
no, it's fine.
I say that with the greatest respect. But
I think anyone that would be too precious, I don't think they would be watching our videos by now. So
let's say they've got, and they're not saving, because we've been talking about catastrophic consequences.
Correct.
And the difficulties of saving and the economy and its present standard. So how is it that a young kid, $100,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
If they've got that, and a lot of kids don't even have that. They've got, let's say, 50.
50 is easy,
50. Can they do something with that?
Yeah, heaps easy.
And they've got a job. Let's say they've got a job. They're earning.
You got 50 grand in income. Your 50k savings.
Can you help them? I mean,
that's what I do. That's what I do every day.
Okay.
So if someone, like, I buy properties, like I made my first $1 million out in Mount Druitt back in the day. So the types of properties I buy, it's like an ex-house, commissioned house, and $1 million now. So it's stupid talking about buying in Mount Druitt for that. But you can still buy in the country properties that are cheaper than what they were 10, 15 years ago. I was in Perth buying heaps of stuff in Perth 5, 6 years ago. Everything was 200, 250k. Now they're all 600, 700 grand. Townsville 3 years ago buying for 100 grand. Now they're 350 grand. Still cheap, but there's better value out there. Dan Andrews, getting back to the Corona side, he made Melbourne very affordable, right? There's some good bargains, right? So just because you can't buy in Sydney or in the Gold Coast has gone crazy. You used to buy in the Gold Coast for 150, 200. Now they're all like 650, 700. But you can go to, there's locations out there where you can still buy for 250 grand. A $50,000 deposit would be a 20% deposit on a 250 grand property. You get a 200 grand loan. If the thing's renting for 400, you got a 200 grand loan, you get $400 a week, $500 a week rent for it. The thing will be neutral to positive cash flow. The debt's being looked after. I see people go out there today.
When you say neutral, when you say neutral to positive cash flow, I'm sure, because I hope we can get some younger people on this, because we do want to stimulate that. What would that look like? And when you say that, what does it mean to them?
So neutral cash flow, like people think after negative gear, you've got to buy property, it's going to lose you money, whatever. Neutral cash flow is where it's just covering all the costs. And I'm not saying neutral as in like, hey, it's covering the mortgage. I mean after council rates, water rates, real estate fees, insurance, whatever. But if it's neutral, it's good. If it's positive cash flow, it's better. But as long as you own that asset, because inflation is the friend here, right? The inflation pushes the value of that asset up in value. So the 200 grand, if you buy a property for 250 today, I've got three things that I've always talked about. It needs to be below market value, upside for capital growth, strong cash flow. So it needs to have those three things. You can't go wrong. I've added in there recently, you want to buy it below rebuild cost. So if you pick up something for 200 grand, we're bringing in migration, 500,000 people a year, 600,000 people a year. To put in perspective, 600,000 people looks like the size of the Gold Coast, southeast Queensland. 600,000 people means Tasmania, Northern Territory, and Townsville combined, right, of people. Where do they go? Where's the housing from, right? Exactly. we were saying beforehand about how
people on the streets.
Yeah, and we're saying, what do we produce with central manufacturing? Well, the only thing we can produce now is we need more tax slaves. We can't breed quick enough. We need to migrate them in. More migration puts more pressure on the system, it puts more infrastructure needs on it, creates more jobs, but on the flip side of that, it creates inflationary pressures, and that's where I see the opportunity to benefit from it. Because if you buy a property for $250 and it's worth $300, if the market went backwards, you're protected. So it's the importance of below market value. If you're buying a thing for $250 and you get a 200 grand loan, the interest rate at say 6% on that would be 12 grand a year. 12 grand a year is $250 a week roughly. 240 bucks, 250 bucks a week. And then if you're getting $400 a week rent on the 250 grand property, that's 20,800 a year, minus your mortgage interest would be 12 grand. So you've got about eight and a half grand a year of cash flow. That would cover council rates, real estate fees, whatever. It might have 20 bucks, 30 bucks positive. But the thing that no one looks at is that in 10 years time, inflation does its thing. The building to build that thing for 200 grand is going to be $1 million, right? So the value that gets pushed to $1 million, your loan is still only 200 grand, right? You can pay that debt off very easy. You buy 20 of those properties, they're looking after themselves. 20 rents get increased with inflation. 20 properties go up with inflation. You can sell off 5 properties and pay out the other 15 properties at that point. And that's the sort of strategies that I look at. And young people, old people, anyone, people come to me with like, people don't come to me and go, oh, I've got 250 grand, I'm on like 500 grand a year income. People come to me and they're like, I'm on 80 to 100 grand, I've got 50 grand, I've got no money, I've got a house I bought for 500 and now it's worth 800. We'll go, okay, you can pull a bit of equity.
What if they own no assets, it's their first time in the market?
Even better. Even better. The 50k, buy your first property. If you can buy it below market, you buy it for 250 and it's worth 300. You come back in 6 months' time, revalue it for 300, pull out the equity, use that for the deposit for number 2.
And here we go through using the equity leverage
to go again.
Cash flow.
Neutral cash flow. Yeah, they need to be neutral cash flow. If they can wipe their own nose, they've got their own heart.
What about tax implications?
You only get taxed if you sell it. I don't buy things for negative gearing. Negative gearing sucks. If anyone had a business that loses money, all the politicians, they always, I'll tell you actually, this is a really funny story, right? This is a funny story. This is what was the biggest distrust to the media, right? Yes. This happened, I was 21 and I was 30 when this happened. So our friends at ABC, right? Media, like ABC, they got me in for the segment.
Good and reliable 6-shot ABC.
Exactly, right? I was on there and they said there was all the people in the room. They bring in 5 people and there's like 20 people for a discussion. They've all been programmed, right? I go in there talking about, they go, oh, this guy's got 10 properties or something at the time. I was like 21 or something. And then they go, there's going to be a couple over there. This, I kid you not, right? A chick with a shaved fringe, right? Like very opinion, whatever, right? Probably hairy armpits, whatever. And she's like, they told her, when I say I'm sacrificing my youth, they said, told me to say a few buzzwords in there. I didn't know, I was just 21, first time going on TV or whatever. And they made a laugh, right? Like it was all staged. I wasn't staged, I was put in there with the wolves, right? So I went in there and they laughed and they said, oh, this guy's silly, he's wasting his youth and all that. Anyway, 10 years later, they called me in and they said, do you want to do a thing? You've got hundreds of properties, we'd love to hear from you being successful. You could share with the people, blah, blah. That's how it was pitched. I get in there and there's like fucking 30 people in the room and they've been in there for hours rehearsing what they're saying. And I realised it was election time and it was a Labor ad, right? I walked into a Labor ad and the value I had to deliver was about, you can buy properties like we just spoke about, right? If that was free speech, we'd just say whatever, it's cool. But it was so scripted, they had everyone there attacking me, saying, how dare you have these properties and you must have made money from negative gearing and you're benefiting from that and we've got to stop greedy people like this from abusing the tax, right? And I was like, this is the biggest bullshit ever. You won't even let me fucking speak, right? Yeah. So when I'm there chatting to them, trying to chat anyway, without they're like, oh, all this stuff, and it's all staged. I just knew it was all staged. I'm like, why am I on a Labor ad for, right? Like, what am I doing in here? You wanted advice, I can't give you shit, right? If I had 100 properties and they were losing me $100 a week, that's 10 grand a week I'm losing. I'll go fucking broke very quickly by doing that, right? A business that loses money goes broke quickly. Negative gearing is shit. It's no good as a strategy. You lose money, you go broke. So that's why I've always been cash flow neutral to positive. If it's neutral today, the rent goes up $20 next year, goes up $20 next year. In 10 years' time, you've got $200 positive cash flow. You've got 10 of them. There's $2,000 a week. So I'm using the system. I'm providing affordable accommodation to people, and I'm contributing to society. Some people look at me as being a disastrous, human being, but that's all good. I'm okay with that because I know what I'm doing, and I'm providing those houses that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. But if a tax, like I get robbed from tax, right? Like taxation is theft, and you don't just get robbed from paying tax, right? I can pay no tax.
The First World War, right? To the hell.
Correct, right? There was the T tax. The original tax is the T tax, right? Like I could pay no tax. Let's say I pay no tax this year, right? Hundreds of properties I buy, I pay hundreds of thousands of land tax. There goes your state government, right? I buy heaps of ovens, kitchens, paint, trades, whatever. I'm employing lots of people to do the job. I'm buying all the materials that I have to buy for that property. I've got to pay GSTs on that, right? So the taxes are not the taxes you have to pay when you do your tax return. The taxes that are all around you. I'm contributing to society. If I have motels. I bought about 30 motels in Corona. It was just a good opportunity, right? And I think about those things. If they've all got like 50 units in them, there could be like 1,000 units, right? If I have to change a light bulb in every unit in 5 years, that's like 5,000 light bulbs I have to buy. The difference between a $5 light bulb or a $10 light bulb, there's 25 grand difference just in the price. Yeah. That money's being shared around. I'm contributing to the economy.
Absolutely.
I look at the system.
It's a functional society. It's functionalist. Yeah. In other words, everyone plays their part, and every little decision you make should play a part.
Correct.
But by restricting that, by virtue of these policies that Labor's bringing in, they're actually suppressing that and nullifying that, and that's a really big concern.
Massive.
And just for clarity, I'm not a Labor killer. I used to be with the Labor lawyers.
Okay.
And I used to be with them. I just got fed up with them because I said, hang on a second, this is a quasi-communist party. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the people are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the ideology is not right. That's my point. Yeah. The people in there, most of them are really nice people, and and they're great people. They're lovely people to be with. They're lovely people to be around. But the ideology of the Labor Party of wanting to spread everything out, give everyone, isolating you for being a capitalist, like hello, that to me is something. But moving that forward, I was looking at how is it now that a young kid can get into the market, and I'm thinking, with 50 grand cash, let's say they're earning $80,000 a year. Is that gross or net?
Gross, yeah.
Let's say they don't own a property.
Yeah.
Can they still do it?
You've got 50k. It's easy.
There you go.
You come to me with 30 grand. 30 grand's a 20% deposit on a 150 grand property. That's a 10% deposit on a 300 grand. You've got to find it. Yeah. My core business is a buyer's agency. So I started the buyer's agency space. 16 years ago, there was no such thing as a buyer's agent. Or there was maybe like 5 or so.
We see them in family. When I do family law, we see a lot of that.
And
they get in there and they do these things, but not just buyer's agencies. They're looking at, okay, how can we sell it? There's a big split up, and they're usually it comes down to, okay, well, the red forks are mine, the blue forks are yours, and it's like, oh gosh, guys, please, let's just get out.
I've been involved in some, like, not in family law perspective, but like people ask me, I've done over 20,000 deals in the last 16 years, and I've seen different phases of life where someone's coming in single and they get married and they have a kid, and then they go out the other side to get a divorce, and which way is the best way to go? They come to me as like the brother to go, what do I do?
It's good when lawyers talk to people like you. And look, I do a lot of family law, I do a lot of criminal, I do wills and estates. And what are they? Transactionally, they've got property, right? And I also do financing, so mortgage documents and things like that, and I help people. And what I'm seeing is people want to refinance. So they get to a certain point of their loan and they go, hang on a second, Bank X is giving me, or mortgage broker Y is got a really good rate.
Exactly.
And then they start using that as leverage. Is that?
I think mindset kills people, right? Like people will look at not having the right mindset will keep people trapped, right? The prison's all around us. It's like it's our mind is what's keeping us. We can do whatever we want, but then our fear or our ego gets us to where we're either good or bad. But I see people that like, I want to pay down the mortgage, right? And you could work the next, let's say you've got $1 million mortgage for a house today. How long is it going to take you to pay that off? 30 years, right? You're enslaving yourself for 30 years. An easier way is just, I'm not giving financial advice in case any of the government regulators are watching this. We're just
legal or financial.
Legal or financial.
You
know, you never know who's going to watch us. They want to throw mud at us, Tony. They're just,
There we go. Yeah, they told me to do it.
They told me to do it. We're just talking.
You've got a real choice with us, mate.
We're just two crazy guys. We're two cookers talking on a video on the internet, right? But let's say instead of working hard, right? Like people will sell. People think the cost of, let's pay that mortgage down, we can save a few dollars, right? The money you're paying, like you pay down $100 grand on your mortgage, you got to go and earn 150 grand. You're going to get robbed from the government, 30%, 40%, whatever. Then you put in, then you're going to save 5% interest, 6% interest, but then inflation is 5 or 6%, so you're going to be paying more for your fruit and vegetables anyway. A better way could be, is what I see a lot of people doing, is instead of paying off the $1 million, they go and buy 3 properties for 300 grand a piece. They double, they go from 300 to 600, they sell them off, take the profit, pay out the debt, and can pay mortgage free in 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever. So I think that having a loan for 30 years, if you're one of those people with a loan for 30 years, it's very detrimental in your life. You should go and revisit every few years to see if there's a better rate. I'm not a rate shopper.
Is it good for you? Is this still working?
Is the product right? Yeah. Is the repayments where it needs to be? Is there equity? I've got a finance company with what I do as well, and I always say people never ask for rate. Don't look at the rate, right? The difference between 0.25%, 0.1%, whatever, that will, next month they drop the rates, one bank will give a bigger discount or whatnot, but it's what the bank can do for you and how they assess you and what they're going to allow you to do to grow to the next level. And I think, your life changes so rapidly and so regularly. You go different seasons. You might be single, you may get married, you might have kids, the kids might be moving out, might be downsizing, upsizing, whatever. You need to make sure that the finance product that the people get is going to support them through the next phase and chapter that they're going into, is my view. So,
I think that's good because, I see a lot of people I know, look, it is a boutique law firm, but, I've got a commercial litigation specialist that works in our team, criminal law specialist. I do a lot of the family law and the criminal law myself. Also do wills and estates, but I see a lot of this coming in. And
everyone needs a will nowadays, right? The amount of people dropping, right?
That's
unexpectedly, right?
There we go.
Have a disaster plan.
Have a backup.
Have a disaster plan. Have a will.
Have a backup.
And I think also on that, you should have not just, like, you got mum and dad have a will, and you think, mum and dad are going to live forever, right? Things happen to people at all different ages nowadays. But the fact is making sure everybody's on the same page, because the worst thing as a parent would want to see that they've got 3 kids and they're never going to talk to each other again because they've raided mum and dad's house. Make sure that everyone's on the same page. So not just one person getting a will, getting the whole family to have wills as well.
And that's a really good thing because we, succession planning. And look, you might be 40, you might be 50, but put on a will and, look after your kids because, even if you say, oh, look, I've got this black sheep of a child and I don't want to give him anything, the child, under the Family Provisions Act, still gets to have a shot at it, right? But more importantly is if you, and it's like financial planning, right? But you're actually financial planning for your children.
Correct.
Right? And this is a succession plan. We came to this earth with nothing. We're going to leave with nothing. You might have some investments. You may have a bank account and you may have a car, but it's not going into the coffin with you. Okay.
It's like that saying with I think George Carlson talked about it. He talked about the Monopoly. He wanted to play Monopoly with his nan, and he played the game of Monopoly with his nan, and then he learned how to play Monopoly, and he aced his grandmother, and he's like, Nan, I beat you. And she's like, how did this all happen? And he's like running around so happy, and then she goes, cool, now you've won, let's get ready for dinner, let's put it all back in the box, right? And he puts it all back in the box, and he realised it was all for nothing, right? The players come, the players go, and it all goes back in the box, and you can't take it.
It does, and it reminds me of a story, and I've said it a few times, obviously, the wording may change slightly, but the principle's there. My mother, before she passed away, because I I do help a lot of the community. I use my own, and I'm actually in the process of starting a foundation now to try and get other people on board to help more people in the community who are disadvantaged. I do it on my own volition. I go out there, but people ask me, why do you do it? And you know, my mother, before she passed away, she you know, words to the effect of, Tony, you know, we come into this world with nothing, and we get choices through our life, and some people go one way, some people go another way, but there are people, she said, you're a lawyer and you're going to get an opportunity to help people. And some of those things are, people are going to go to jail, they're going to have emotional, you know, mental health issues, they're going to be short on money. And there's other factors out there where they're just going to need your help. And she said, you came with nothing, you're going to leave with nothing, but she said, if you give back to the community and give them something and help them, because these people who are in jail, they've got no one sometimes, and they're going to come out and they're going to do it again because they've got no one. And people who have emotional, mental health issues, they've got no one. You know, they've bounced off so many people. But she goes, you may not have the Ferrari or you know the 25 properties, and that's, I'm not having a jab at you.
Oh no, that's fine.
But you may not have that. She said, but you're going to go with a full heart. And she said, all of us should be doing this. And if we wake up every day and say, well, what can I do? That might mean, let's put $1 in the guy's tin who's homeless. I don't know what he's going to do with it.
But you've contributed it, so...
You know, and go out, help that mother who's sleeping on the road. Give her $20. And when I did some death in custody cases, you mentioned Townsville earlier, I did a death in custody cases some years ago, and I travelled up there and I helped this family. And before I left, I literally went to Coles or Woolies and I filled up the trolley with food. I took the food to the house and I said, look, my job is, look, I'm here because of what happened, but we're going to do our investigation with the legal process. I was an Aboriginal family, so I do a lot of Indigenous work in the communities. But we left that food there for them. And it wasn't just that we were giving service of legal services, but I wanted to make sure that the father who had passed away, at least for the next month, the kids and the wife
don't have to worry.
Something. But whether they gave the food, it's not my decision. But did I do something that I walked away with in my heart? And I said to myself that I'm happy with what I did there. That $200 or whatever I spent. Yes, it's my money, and people go, "Oh man, how are you doing it?" But it leads to that principle.
I think on that, like, people sometimes say, "Oh, no, Birchy, you know, like, life will be good like you, right? Like, problems come everywhere, right? And we have them in all, no matter what. We're all fighting some sort of problem that we got. And I've had times which have been great highs. And you know, if you go one property, you go cool. You go 10, that's cool. You put another 0, you got 100. Then you got 1,000. On a good day, anything that's good is amplified by how many zeros are on it, right? Anything on a bad day is negatively impacted by the amount of zeros on it, right?
That's a good way. That's a good way.
So when I've got my problems, like, sometimes they're very amplified, the problems,
that's a good way.
And sometimes I've been like really fucked on luck. I never sit there and go, oh, it's so bad, whatever. But I'm like, this is really tough time, whatever.
How do you get out of it?
I just have to get out of it. Like, so many times it's bigger than me. Right? It's bigger than me, right? Bigger than me. And you've got to stay committed to it. You know, it's like, I think there's a story in the Bible that talks about the flood and the guys on the roof of the house, and then he's like, he sent them
building the boat. There's a flood coming. No,
exactly right. Like the one where it was like you sent like all these different bits of lifelines that he could have had, and then he dies because he drowns on the roof, and then he goes to God, and God says, it wasn't in the Bible, it's a metaphor thing. And it's like, he gets to God and he says, you didn't come and save me. He goes, I sent you like 5 different people. I sent the rescue boat, I said this, I said that, and you just ignored the signs that are there. And I think once things happen, you need to get through it, right? We're equipped with the resources, and a lot of the times I've had things that have happened, and it's like, bigger than me, right? I have to get through it. And the more you put in, the more there is to lose. And sometimes when I've been totally fucked, it might be, it might be a financial thing, it might be whatever. And my financial things come when I buy like 20 properties in a day, and I'm like, shit, I'm short on how I'm going to settle it or whatever. And we're like, someone needs something. There's my last $500. There's my last $1,000. It's like, but then it provides, right? It provides because something just comes. Your mindset shifts. Your view changes. Your energy changes. It's within you to do that. So I think it's very good. Like people in the articles, like we've got the news still to this day, and people are, this guy, he's just a greedy prick, blah blah. So they don't know. They're looking at it from a page and a.
You're working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
And what you're trying to do, Birchy, is help people get out of that. This is what I'm sensing. Right? Is that you're helping people, and it's like being a lawyer too. We're here to help you. Well, unfortunately, we come after the storm. Yeah. And we've got
in a lot of instances,
we're after the storm. So you've either been charged or you've been through a breakup. But sometimes, and we touched on a moment ago, that if you pre-plan, so that means on the way into the relationship, they should be seeing you instead of on the way out. And go, help me, that is think about it smarter. You can do it that way, and you can create those sorts of agreements with someone, and you both got assets, you both want to protect it. Well, you can see a lawyer. As the time goes on, this erosion principle occurs, which is you start meshing and joint accounts, and you become this relationship. But I think good estate planning, good financial planning, and that's where that's where I link in with people like yourself, and I say, well, how can I better help my clientele by offering further services? And then I get the financial guy saying, you know what, go and see Tony, because they can help you do wills, trusts, financial mortgage documents. They can help you settle this stuff, and if there's a problem, they can also do that. And it's very important that people understand that there are ways that. And you'll never protect yourself 100%.
Exactly. There's always going to be. People don't realise the amount of pianos that are hanging over their heads. They think they're safe and whatever. I'm like, anyone could get destroyed. It's not hard to.
That's right. It's about how you manage that and how you manage your risk. And I think that's where where I was asking you. My daughter's in real estate, by the way.
Cool.
And she's out there with McGrath.
Okay, cool.
And I think that when you look at how they sort of operate, I think they're always working towards the embedment of something. And I think by good financial planning, good legal planning, people say, but it costs me money. Yes, it does, but it also going to save you a lot of money.
Exactly.
Okay, so you might get hit, but it's not going to be hit hard. Okay, and it may cost you $500-600 to draft a very basic, simple will, or it could cost you a couple grand depending on the complicated structures and trusts and corporations that may be behind it. The other side of the coin, it could cost you a couple grand to do draft a discretionary trust with shareholder agreements that are within that. But again, when it all turns to shit, and if it does turn to shit, you're going to lose a lot more. And
life brings a lot of shit in it. It's not like no one's expecting to have the crazy.
You don't know when it's coming. When he built the ark, like I said, they said, look at this bloke on the hill. He's building a boat on a hill. What a cooker. What an absolute cooker. Well, who was right? He was right early.
Exactly. He was there before the party. So.
But that was brilliant. Look, and I think the motto is get ready, even in turn. I think when you think things are safe is the best time to prepare. It's the best time.
I look at myself now. I turned 40 like a couple of months ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I tried to avoid. I did nothing for it. I just went out for dinner, and I look at it and I was like, when I was 25, I was going to live forever. Yeah. I look at my Facebook now and I see all those deaths that we're talking about beforehand, right? And I'm like, we're very mortal, and it's not a good thing to think about. Sort of influencer in the US the other day. He died, blood clot. Wouldn't ask what happened, but it just happened. And he has a wife and kids, and he had a disaster plan that was very important for his family, his wife to be able to take over the business and to manage without his presence. But people don't think about it. People try to avoid it. It's like things are. I was fat a few years ago. I wasn't fat, but I was fat, and I'd see a mirror and I'd avoid looking at it, because I didn't want to see the person. And I knew that I should be looking at that going, you need to motivate yourself. But I didn't, because it was something I wanted to avoid And quite a lot of times in people's life, they'll be doing things or in a position where they're trying to avoid stuff and they don't want to face their mortality. They don't want to face what the family's going to look like. But it's important you address it, otherwise you have a big mess. You're dead, you're dead. You don't need to worry about it. But you've worked hard to make $1 million, $5 million,
yes.
$10 million. You want your kids to be safe. It's important that you plan for that transition.
And you structure for it now, because when you're gone, you can't.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It really is that simple, and you can't do that now. So, and people say, "I'll do it tomorrow." No, do it today.
Yeah.
Do it today. And I'm not saying that for any specific purpose, because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, then you prepare it. You're not planning for the future. You're actually planning to fail.
Yeah.
And you were saying it a moment ago, and we see it a lot. And I do have these sorts of cases where kids and grandkids are challenging wills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because they weren't drafted adequately, or something else had occurred. Now, I'm not criticising anyone, because this is what happens. We're lawyers. We look for the gaps. That's our job. Yeah. What's there? Well, I look at what's not.
Billable hours are there for a lawyer. It's like someone's come for the left hook there.
I'm also looking what isn't there. Okay, well, you haven't put in a provision for your son. Yeah. You haven't put in a provision for your daughter. Or if you did, how does that provision relate to the next provision? And I think it's very important, and that's where, like your mortgage documents, if you put them right and you set up your structures well and your financial planning, I think that's the way. Yeah. And we really need to look at that. And your family deserves it.
Yeah.
Your family needs that. Exactly. And I know, people look at us sometimes, Birch, and they say, look at these guys, but we're very serious, and we get to where we are because we actually mean what we say, but we're also authentic in our approach. Like, I'm sensing from you authenticness in the sense that, all right, you're a capital man, so am I, okay? And yes, I want people coming through the door, but I also want to protect you. Yeah. And you're doing the same. How can I secure your future? Yeah.
And no decision. I always think to my investors and whoever, I take the privilege that people want my help, but nothing that they do is going to change my life, right? Like you got a certain amount of hours in the day. You can go and defend someone in court for drink driving. You can go defend someone, do whatever. You go sue someone, whatever. It doesn't make a difference if you're spending your day writing a will for $1,000 or whatever it's going to cost, or if you're going to be, going to court. You're still going to be doing whatever you're going to be doing in your day. But the advice for that person to protect their legacy and is very, very important. And
I think we need to continue on that. And I think, one thing, I've learned a lot, and I really want to say thank you for bringing me on, because I've also learned so much from you. And, look, I kind of know all those systems, but the way, it works, I think moving forward, I think as a society, you're only, those shackles are only as strong as you allow them to be. And you've got the bolt cutters. Yeah. And it's up to you to cut the bolt. You know? And the reason I'm here is also to suggest, so you've got that financial freedom that you're offering people. But I always say one of the biggest things in law is fear. Yeah. And we've seen that, we were talking about that earlier, about the fear of, not questioning. No, question it, and question absolutely take it to its hilt. Yeah. Because you said something really early in the show where, we go through university and we hold. You remember in kindergarten you see the kids lining up, they're holding hands. Yeah. It's really cute. It's really cute, but that's the setup for that formation.
They don't walk out like that.
That's the formation process starting.
Yeah.
That's compliance. It's about, let's get in 2 lines. Let's do what Miss Jones, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but not too good if you do it all the time. Such as, here's something, no one knows what the hell's in it. Put it in your body, and when you die, we're going to call it a coincidence. Well.
There's lots of coincidences out there today.
Yes, there's plenty of coincidences, and I can tell you there's a shitload. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a reckoning. That legal reckoning needs to come. It's not about vengeance. Yeah. Again, I always say this.
You speak for the people that can't speak anymore. That's the way I see it. You've got a voice where people are disabled. They're not able to speak on their behalf.
They're being silenced.
Yeah, they're being silenced.
There's a really good case in Canada where they passed a law. Yeah. Assisted dying, medically assisted dying made.
I think I saw a photo on your Instagram of the blonde lady in the wheelchair, and she goes, I took the vaccine, I've been paralysed, and then now they're helping me do assisted dying.
It's like they're saying, we can't help you. By the way, we don't recognise it, but we'll give you these injections, and you can euthanise yourself, or here it is, you can go and commit suicide. Well, is this not the definition of absolute mindlessness? I think I really think, there's a big potential here for criminal liabilities, and they need to be imposed because there needs to be some serious consequences for those people who came out, misled and deceived the people. Yes, some people survived. It's like not everyone that smokes get cancer.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
Not everyone that worked and shaved down asbestos brake pads was mesothelioma. You know what I mean? Not everyone that served in Vietnam and was subjected to Agent Orange died from Agent Orange. But come on, guys. We need some common sense, and you were talking about it earlier. We need people to be able to say, okay, we ran through that school system, we did this, we were taught that, we were conditioned to obey, not to think.
That's the devil at work.
Yes,
that's the devil at work.
The thinkers are the ones who woke up.
Correct.
And they're the ones who say, hang on, there's something fishy here. If it was really that good, why are we getting coerced and forced into doing it? And now they're all saying you weren't.
Exactly. That's the disgusting part about it. My big question is, and I asked this at the start, is what comes next? Right? What's the next thing? Is it electrical? Is it a power grid? Is it the internet? Is it the food? Is it the climate? Is it biometric? Is it a takeover? Is it a psyop? And they're happening all around us every day. I don't know what trust.
Well, I spoke about the international health regulations. That's a very big concern, and I've been writing about it for well over 2 years now. And 2021, 22 is when I was really, really cracking into that. But I also say, if you look at what I was writing in 2014, I was talking about climate. And some of the biggest issues with respect to that were the false claims around the climate and carbon credits. So. One of the issues with respect to that was companies can still pollute, but they buy a carbon credit.
It's crazy.
Really? It's good to refine your processes and engage in better filters and this and that, but it's not all about that.
It's a new tax.
It's another new tax,
new mechanism.
But I pay a tax so I can pollute more. So I'm really not cutting down on pollution. I'm just paying a tax on the pollution that I pollute. And they're saying this is going good because now we can implement certain policies. That's not coming to you because we're still sending it overseas to help other people while our people starve and sleep on the streets here. That is disgusting. The other side of the coin is a lot of the photovoltaic energy and that. It's getting better. It's getting much better from when I was writing about it. It's getting much better, but it's not going to ever overtake. We're putting all our eggs in one basket, and it's a hoax. It's a
control mechanism. I think it's a control mechanism.
Well, it is. Those smart meters, I just
turn it
off. At a grid.
You don't have to go to the house and pull a fuse out. Someone puts a new fuse in. You literally push a button and the thing shuts down, and then it's all gone.
People keep saying, "Oh, that's so conspiratorial." No, it's not.
We'll go back to your house, put your mask on, and lock yourself away for 3 years.
Because those immobilisers and things like that on the Tesla cars and things like that, mate, that's dead set going to happen. Well, if they want it to happen, I'm not saying they're just going to do it, but then they create that, and they you're getting this. The people say, "Oh, they're not spraying." I'm not saying they are. I
literally was having a chat, right, with someone in the room before here, right, before you walked in today, about spraying, right, and I said, I reckon that Tony will go, spraying is real, right. The spraying, I look in the sky. People don't look up in the sky. They're looking down too far, and I can see it. I see little. They look like if you had a plane. It doesn't look like a plane. It looks like a little car-sized thing that's spraying, right? And it's like the sprays. It's interesting. Like people are.
It's like I kind of envisage, when you spray a fly. I'm not saying I don't have the evidence. I want to say that. So I'm not saying categorically. But what I will say categorically, and this is what I can say because we do have the evidence, is that laws do exist in Australia to allow weather modification.
Cloud seeding in 1966.
Yes. Okay, you got that. But you also got Operation Popeye in Vietnam, where they were manipulating to, for make the monsoons.
Yes.
And the poor GIs on the ground thinking, oh my God, look at these monsoon rates. But it was most probably not genetically, but
assisted.
It was an assisted weather event. And no, that's not conspiratorial. It's absolute fact, and the evidence is on the books of the legislature. Okay, it's there.
I literally see the clouds roll in. I look at the chemtrails. I observe it. It's one of my hobbies of looking at the chemtrails, and I'm like, I don't know what's in it. I don't know what it is. But that
is it a chemtrail or a contrail? I've never.
But the clouds happen straight away. I've literally sat in my pool. I built a nice big pool. Looks over a big cliff. I look up at the sky all the time. I'm an acreage, and I see these lines just going straight through the sky. And then within an hour, I see that there's a hailstorm. It was completely blue, nothing around, bang, bang, bang. I'm like, what caused that to happen? The only thing I saw
let's
here...
speak if it is true. Let's assume whether it is.
Or we're just cookers. Let's just look at the fact.
Let's look at this and just really quickly break it down and say to ourselves, well, whose interest does that serve? Well, it would serve the interests of those who are pushing a climate change ideology, saying, look at these weather events. They're catastrophic. This has never happened. Well, it hasn't happened because, and I'm saying if it's true. I'm just saying if it is true. And if it is true and the evidence comes out to support that, then you're creating the catastrophe and placing society at risk to promote an ideology of climate change.
And it's happened before with other things.
Okay, so that's if that's true. The other side of the coin is it is true in the sense of that's not happening, it's just the climate changing. But the climate's not changing at the rate of knots that they're saying.
Yeah.
And, at some certain point, carbon dioxide at a certain level gets to a catastrophic limit. I think it's, don't quote me, 185 parts per million or something like that. We're at about 300 or 400 right now. And they're saying we want to reduce it to 230. The margin from 230 to 180, which is a cataclysmic event that kills everything and everyone, is a very small margin. I'd prefer to be at 400. Okay? Seriously, because the margins... the margins are much better and your chances of survival, and they want to get that down. And I keep asking myself, who in their right mind is asking to kill themselves? This is what they're these...
But then what about if it made us sick? What about if it made us sick so we have to go to the doctors?
Well, if they're spraying some sort of a chemical, and that's what's giving everyone the flu. And
you have to go and run and get a... I just question, always question. It's
of course, it's a question, and it's one that... It's a
we don't know.
Question to ask, and you would never know, especially if they have the capability to do it. Is it happening? Well, we don't know. I'm sure there's people out there gathering evidence, looking for it, because it is becoming more and more prominent. But one thing I do want to say, you spoke about flaxseed oil. Flaxseed's not too bad, but other
cotton, canola,
that sort of stuff. We forget one thing: the soil is our home. Okay, a nice healthy soil gives us healthy food, healthy product.
Without chemical.
Healthy produce, yes. And the fertility of that soil is what we need to embrace and enhance, and we seem to forget that. And I always say to look at your soil, because a nice rich soil is going to have worms, it's going to have nice succulent, and people go, oh my goodness, it's a worm. Well, that's telling you there's
nutrients.
There's nutrients, there's things working under this soil, and we've got to take it all the way back, you know what I mean? And again, we've got to take our medicine all the way back, because doctors aren't working in healthcare, they're working in medicine now, so they're glorified
salespeople.
For the pharmaceutical companies, because you go in there, what's the first thing they do? Well, one of these once per day, take one of these, next thing you know, you've got iatrogenic effects that you've never had before. Iatrogenic effects the doctors caused it. I'm sure they're there for their good reason to help.
You've got a good client, they're recurring client.
Sometimes they do help, because there's some really good things out there. You look at medications that save people, literally save people's lives on an operating table. And that's why I don't hate the farm. People go, this guy's... I'm not. I am for, but do it ethically. Do it ethically, do it responsibly. And so when we look at these medicines and this and that, you look at, Vietnam, post the Vietnam War, the pharmaceuticals companies came in. There's been a 300 to 400% rise in autism ever since they started vaccinating, because they didn't have a vaccination program before that. And we're starting to see that, and I've been writing about this for some time. Now, this isn't another cooker theory. It is literally when we were going to school. How often did you see ADHD and autism? I've never heard of it. It's got nothing to do with the science hadn't progressed to identify it. We were active. We were jumping up and down trees and playing cricket and running around the plate. We were all doing that. But a lot of these things, autism, Asperger's and that, mate, they were so rare. If not, they didn't. And I see so many mothers now troubled with kids with autism and serious ADHD. And what do? They go and put them on other medicines.
More medicine.
And it's like, and that saddens me because we do really need to bring that back.
Yeah.
We need to bring it back to a point to say, okay, where did this happen? And you're going to tie it in. There's going to be a point in time where we never had it to where we got it. And
then what happened around that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. I always look at those data inputs, and like I said before, like you get 99% of the food at your supermarket is out to kill us. It's got all the bad stuff in it. What's it doing with the kids' neurologicals? What's it doing with the kid whilst they're born?
How many aisles in the supermarket, Birchy?
Yeah. Every aisle.
Natural.
Every aisle.
How many say natural? Here's the natural food.
The natural one. Natural seed oil, right? Natural canola oil, right?
You've got one aisle.
Yeah.
In this
you've got a half a shelf, and then you've got little lollies in there that say a 5-star health rating. How do you get a 5-star?
Yeah, natural
lollies.
Oh, really?
The natural confectionery, right?
But you've got the produce, and even they're heavily
it's all sprayed. The meat that's full of chemical.
You see, and you know, I buy my meat from farms.
I do too.
Yeah.
It has to be. I need to know where the animal.
Yeah.
Show me a photo of Bessie before she put it. Before it in the box for me, right? It's like,
and I get it cut up, and you know, I do that. Produce, I always try and go to organic style. Look, sometimes I'm pressed for time. I won't eat macas and things like that because of all the carcinogens and things like that in there.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there's carcinogens in some food.
100%.
In macas, I'm just saying. You know,
in any food, processed foods have that. As,
so you know, processed foods. So we've got to be, you know, vigilant about what we're putting into our body. And look, like you, I'm on my way down. So there was one point only last year where I had more chins than the Chinese phone book. They were just layered.
It happens to the best of us at times.
They were layered, mate. And I'm on my way down. But, you know, look, I'm starting to look after myself. I've got some really good friends out there who are saying, hey, Tone, look at this, look at that, look at that. And I'm implementing that. Unfortunately, you know, I've got a busy lifestyle. So that sort of counteracts a lot of what I do. So in terms of my activity, I love swimming laps and going to the gym and things like that. But obviously I'm pretty restricted. But I always take it back to the soil. Yeah. Because the soil grows the food, the meat eats from the things that grow out of the soil, the grass with the grains. Yeah. Mate, this is where it's all at, everyone. Yeah.
Not synthetic meat.
That's right.
That's patented.
And you know, they're going down that way. But, you know, look, I think if we prepare ourselves right and we enlighten ourselves, it's not... Birch, it's not about being a cooker, it's about being awake. Yeah,
critical thinking. People obeying without questioning. It's always talked about the devil will control us when you obey without questioning, right? And we go to this system, it keeps us in the system, keeps us trapped. Now, I think the real, like, you said before, like, wealth isn't about, you know, the cool car and stuff like that. Look, I believe for wealth for me today, and what it's always been, is the freedom to do what I want, when I want, how I want. But that freedom's extended out to, like, being able to control yourself, to control take care of your family, to not be forced and coerced into decisions you wouldn't normally do if it wasn't under duress.
Go against your conscience.
Belief and consciousness there. To have that time back, to be able to have land that you can raise your own food on. I was away for a couple of days at my beach house, and there was someone at my property, and I've got chickens and whatnot. And I got home, and on my back doorstep there was a big Woolworths bag full of eggs, right, that had been taken from the chicken coop. And like, I get so many eggs, I give them away all the time to people, right? But I know where they came from. I know what they've been fed. I know, you know, how they've been raised. I know what chemicals have been put into them. And for me, that's important. I think, you know, the more you become awake to what's happening out there, the more they're not like options. People don't have choices. They don't have freedoms. And I think that's more than any car, more than any cool bit of jewelry someone could have or whatever, the freedom of choice, the freedom of movement, the freedom of yourself.
I think you said something right at the start of this, which is, I'm like you, I'm pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, shorts, t-shirt kind of guy. When I go overseas, I don't go and stay in the best hotels.
Yeah.
Mate, I'll stay wherever my car took me at that point of time, where I say, my Spotify, I'm getting the shits with it. I need to pull over. I need some sleep.
Yeah.
And that's literally how I'll operate. And you know, look, I don't have, you know, well, I've got some, you know, because of the job I do, I need some good clothes. But you'll find me walking around in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt or a polo. Yeah. Literally, this is how I like operating. You know, and sometimes people look at me and go, "Mate, what are those trackies? Like, what are they?" And I was, mate.
People, I literally don't own a pair of shoes. Hey, if I go to someone's wedding, I wear thongs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't own shoes. I go to the gym, I wear thongs.
It's
right.
authentic. It's you. It's who you are, and that's where you feel comfortable.
Exactly.
Thank you.
If I don't feel comfortable,
and I don't care what someone looks at me and says to me. I don't. They can say, "Mate, look at this lawyer. He's driving around." And I do drive around a little hatchback Toyota, but I've got another car at home.
Yeah.
But I actually like that, and I actually like the little car. I love it. I love it. I like working where the Guildford, which is in an industrial area at the back above a mechanics workshop, but I've got the Barangaroo office. But it's not my status. It's not who I am. I don't need fancy jewellery. I've got a cross around my neck. I've got a cross. I wear it proudly. And I do it because I have faith. And I think part of my guiding principles are the faith. But again, I respect all faiths. And I remember during COVID lockdowns, they locked down, and I fought for all the places of worship to open. Obviously, my clients were churches and synagogues.
I remember watching all of the things that I'm like, this guy's onto it.
Because I said, how dare you close churches on the basis of, and it was an urgent injunction, I said, how dare you close these churches and places of worship because of social distancing, but you're letting them go to brothels. If there's ever going to be a violation of social distancing, don't you dare tell me you can't do that in a brothel. That is morally corrupt.
The organic food shop was shut, but you could go to the bottle and get some alcohol.
Exactly right. And that to me was moral and ethical bankruptcy. And that disgusted me, and everyone out there should be aware of that.
Tony, this has been great. I'd love to actually follow this up. I think we could do something with the webinar, right? I think we could do a webinar together if you wish to. But
I do one of these once.
Good. Let's go to. I love the chat. Let us know what you think.
I like the. I'll tell you, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, that's all right. I was wrapping up, but that's all right. We can keep chatting about it. But I'll wrap up. Tony, how do people get in contact with you?
You can contact us at aflsolicitors.com.au, or you can also email admin@aflsolicitors.com.au. You got 98922298.
02.
98922298. That's where it's at. And
you said you had a book.
Yes, there's a book chapter, the International Handbook of Whistleblower Research. I was a contributor, chapter 16. You can also go to my Instagram, AFL Solicitors. You've also got Tony Nikolic 10 on X. You also have my LinkedIn profile on X, Tony Nikolic, and you also have Facebook, which is AFL Solicitors. Big online presence, and you also have Telegram. A lot of them have tens of thousands of followers. It's because I'm there, and like you,
the after party happens over there. Things you can't say so much.
That's right. And you see me challenging people, but I do it ethically. And one thing you don't, you won't see me do, and the reason I say that is because I don't go out and call people corrupt, and I don't do that sort of stuff. I try and do it in a balanced way. I understand that things need to be done, and like you, I'm there, to try and create a service.
I think I say a lot of things in humour. Like I just say, this is crazy, right?
And we said it today.
Cool, beautiful. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. If you guys like the video, make sure you share it with your friends and family, smash up the likes, subscribe every Thursday, Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify and YouTube. We'll catch up next week. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it.